What's going on, YouTube? It's Grinch, and today we've got another tier list video. We're going to be looking at every single Lego Hobbit set ever released, so let's get into it. Plain old Grinch. Alright, so if you've never seen one of these tier lists before, here's how it works. We've got our S tier, which is the best tier, our A tier, which is, awesome, B tier's average, C tier's below average, and then D tier are the bottom of the bunch, the worst sets in the group. A quick note before we start, we are only looking at the Hobbit sets that were publicly available, and by that I mean we aren't looking at the Comic-Con sets. I know those sets exist. We're going to save them for another video, and for the extent of this tier list, we'll be just looking at the sets that you could get on shelf or you could get by pre-ordering something and getting the little pre-order bonus. So that being said, let's get into it. First up, we have a poly bag. We have our Mirkwood Elf Guard poly bag. And what I really look for in poly bags is two things. Is it massable, or is it a unique version of a character that we have never gotten? And in this case, we've got a massable character. Love the elves, love the Mirkwood elves, and this is a character that you wanted multiple of. You got a little bit of a side build bonus here, so just some added pieces for your collection. The build doesn't add much, but what the real value here is with the Mirkwood elf. You wanted a lot of these. This was a way to get it. It was very cheap. So for me, starting things out strong here with a B. For the Mirkwood elf, because you did want to get multiple of these, so you probably picked up a couple. Next up, we kind of have the opposite situation here. We have Gandalf at Dol Guldur. This was another poly bag, and for me, it's definitely not going to be a B tier. It's better than a D tier, right? You knew what you were getting. You weren't disappointed. You knew exactly what you were getting from this, but you really didn't need multiple of it. Gandalf was one of the most popular minifigures across the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit series. I believe Gandalf came out in 4 different sets within the Hobbit, so there was plenty of opportunity to get him. You really didn't need to have a poly bag as another way to get the same character. So for me, it's below average. Not much being brought to the table here in terms of a poly bag. It wasn't massable. It wasn't a unique variation of Gandalf. Sure, you got a printed piece, but for me that wasn't enough to justify the poly bag. And up next we have the Legolas Greenleaf poly bag. This is another poly bag similar to that Gandalf. We got this Legolas, I believe, in 2 other sets. They weren't very expensive sets, so you definitely were able to get your hands on him, especially considering you had to get all the sets if you wanted all the dwarves. So you already had encouragement to get all the sets, so for me, not a massable character, nothing special here with the build, no really cool printed pieces, so gotta be another below average poly bag. Unlike this next one, we actually have the Lake Town Guard, and I really like this poly bag. Was it amazing? Probably not, but you got a really cool Lake Town Guard. We only saw him in 1 other set. It was on the more, moderate side of the price range, so it's not like you necessarily wanted to go out and spend a lot of money and get a lot of those sets, but you did want to get more than 1 Lake Town Guard. I'm going to have to put this in a B. You wanted to mask this character. Another great thing about this poly bag was it came with that really cool helmet piece, and I also think it was just a cool figure. You don't often see a purple, medieval type guard, be it in, The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, or another, castle type theme. So it's just a unique figure. You wanted multiple of them. So for me, that's going to be average for a poly bag. Love this poly bag. This poly bag is exactly what I'm looking for. This is the Good Night Bilbo poly bag. It was a pre-order bonus for the Hobbit video game, and you get Bilbo in a really cool nightgown pajama outfit here. Just in general, just for Lego, it's a very cool torso print, one that's kind of unique as a whole, and we got to see that on the Hobbit from the series, right? The most important character, and we got to see a really cool alternative figure here. Definitely would consider this a bonus when you're pre-ordering something. It's got enough uniqueness to warrant, a polybag, but doesn't necessarily belong in a set. So for me, this is an A, above average. I really like this polybag and would recommend it to anybody. And then up next we have our first and only board game. These board games were cool. We already, if you haven't looked at it, go check out the Lord of the Rings tier list. I talked about the Lord of the Rings one there. But in this case, in the Hobbit's case, I'm going to have to give this set a C. The game wasn't very good. It wasn't as good as the Lord of the Rings game, but mostly because the reason I liked these sets so much is for the nano figures, and I felt like it was a huge miss here. We didn't get any quality named characters. We got Dwalin, we got Gandalf, and then we got Killy and Philly, but what was really missing for me was the main characters. Where was Bilbo? Where was Thorin? Where was Balin? We had all these other characters. Where was Azog, right? The main villain of the series. Big miss in my opinion. Sure, the other dwarves that we did get were more popular of the dwarves overall. They weren't the most popular, but they were definitely not the least popular. But you wanted those kind of star-studded characters, the main characters of the franchise, and something like this in nano form, and we didn't get that. So for me, I can't say that this is even average or above average. It's below average. It really just missed the overall mark here for me. And now getting into our first, set, our first boxed set here, traditional Lego set. We have riddles for the ring. This was a $10 set. It was the only way to get the Hobbit version of Golem. But overall, the build, nothing to write home about. The minifigures, sure, you got the Golem, but the Bilbo was the same Bilbo that we saw in 4 other sets, so nothing special about him. Overall, there was a couple play features built into this little mountain build, a tiny little paddle boat here for a Golem. Yeah, kind of teetering here between a B and a C, trying to think about what we have coming up in terms of sets. And I think overall I have to give this one a B. These smaller sets definitely fit a niche. There's definitely need for them. They can't always be the big, robust sets. And this is just such an important scene. And I don't know how else you would have captured it better. Now, they didn't really add anything to the scene. It's not this amazing representation of it, but it's captured well. So for that reason, I'm going to give it a B. I'm glad there was a cheaper way to get Golem again. So, he didn't have to be in multiple sets or a really big set. I don't know how they would have made that work. So overall, average set in my opinion. We're going to give it a B. Alright, so next up we have Escape from Mirkwood Spiders. And for me, there's just something missing here. I don't think it particularly captures the scene well. Sure, we have spiders. They actually gave us 2 spiders, which was kind of a nice plus. It wasn't a terribly expensive set. It was like $30. We got 4 minifigures. Couple nice little builds, but in my opinion we were missing the most important part of the scene, and that was Bilbo. Bilbo in the movie added a lot to this scene. It's where he got a nickname for his sword, and
Sting. It's a good name.
You can't actually recreate that scene with this set. In my opinion, it felt like just a way to throw in Philly and Killy in a separate set. They did spread the dwarves out amongst all of the different sets, and it really felt like in this case they just kind of threw them in this set to put them in a different set. This was the only set that we did see this variation of them in. We got that same Legolas as before, and then we got a different variation of Tariel. We saw her later and in a different torso and leg printing. She did come with her cool knife, so that was a bonus, but just overall it doesn't capture the scene well. It's not even a particularly exciting scene. It wasn't one that you were looking forward to rebuilding. So for me, I'm gonna have to give this a C. There were some good aspects about it. Not everything was bad. However, overall it really just kind of missed the mark in my opinion. Alright, so next up we have Attack of the Wargs. And this was another kind of, this is kind of the theme here, right? In this set, actually, every single minifigure is unique to it. So we got 5 minifigures in total. We got a unique Thorin. We did see other versions of Thorin. We got a couple of orcs. We got Bifur the dwarf. And then we got Yaznag, kind of a forgettable villain. He's kind of a little minion villain. But the real selling point for this set was definitely the 2 wargs. They were very generous in the wargs that they did give you because they gave you 2 of them. The price to part ratio was great because of that. But overall, this build is lacking anything of substance, and I feel like this is just another miss of capturing the scene. You got this kind of awkward pride rock looking build, and you don't even have an eagle. And if you've seen the movie, right, the eagle is a very important part of this scene. He saves Thorin and the troop from the tree, and overall, just kind of lacking, in my opinion, for such a important part of the first film, the climax of the film. It was a little bit of a letdown in terms of a set, in my opinion. So I kind of thinking it's a D, maybe a C. I think I'm gonna have to go just with the way that it fits into the entire collection of sets here. I think I have to go with a D. It just isn't, anything to really write home about. The wargs are great. Don't get me wrong, I really like the wargs, but if you just wanted a warg, there was another way to get a warg. Sure, it was a different color. Sure, you had to get this set if you wanted the wargs in all the colors, but you also had to get the set if you wanted all the minifigures. And overall, though, that was the only reason you really bought this set, and so for me, it's a D. Coming in next year, we have, I think, what's going to be our first S tier set. This actually came with 6 minifigures. That came with a Gandalf that we saw. I believe this is the version of Gandalf with his cape, so that meant he was in 4 sets total with that cape. Otherwise, he came in a few more sets without the cape, but this is the one that we saw in all of the Hobbit sets. This is the one that came with the poly bag. We saw him later in 2 other sets as well, so nothing special there, but we did get a unique Bilbo to this set with his tan suspenders. We got Boffer, we got Bomber, we got Dwalin, and then we got Balin, and all 5 of them are unique to this set. One of my favorite characters, one of the dwarves, came out in this set, which was Bomber. I really liked what they did with his head slash beard slash belly piece. It was the only time I've ever seen Lego do that, and I think that it was a miss that they didn't do that in other sets. They could have definitely done a similar piece with Homer Simpson, but they actually gave him a big belly, which was kind of cool. They didn't just print it, and overall, I think this was the first set I was really excited about in the series. When I saw it on shelf, I was like, that was the one I needed to get. It just captures Bilbo's Hobbit hole really well. It's a great build. It's got a nice interior. It displays really well, and just from a playability perspective, it's all there. So on every single mark, minifigures, playability, display, value, this set captures them all, and for me, it's an S tier. If you're a fan of this series at all, this is the set that you have. Everybody has this set from the series. This is the one to remember, and therefore it's definitely an S. Alright, so next up we have the Barrel Escape, and again, this is another one of those sets that came out with a bunch of unique minifigures. Of course, we got the 2 dwarves here. We got Gloin and we got Oin. We got a couple of Mirkwood elves, and then that same Bilbo we saw in 4 sets. Overall, though, I actually think that this set captures the scene really well. You could actually kind of envision and play through the entire scene with this set, which is cool. You got the jail cells, you got the barrels, right? You can escape. If you combine this with the next Mirkwood set, you've got that whole chapter in the movie covered. So there was a lot that this set had to offer. Was it the most amazing build? No. Was it the most detailed build? No. But it was definitely a fun build and a good building experience, and I felt like a lot of thought and a lot of process went into putting this set together. So for me, I'm gonna say it's average. It's not an amazing set. It doesn't offer anything special. It doesn't bring anything unique to the table. Sure, you get Gloin here, you get a couple cool elves, but overall it just captures the scene well enough. It's what you'd expect. It's what you were looking for, but not anything truly absolutely memorable. So for that reason, I'm going to give it a B. All right, and next up we have the Goblin King battle. This was another great set in my opinion. I'm leaning towards an A right now. I really enjoyed building this set. It just felt like you were building the Goblin Tunnel. I don't know how else to explain it. Every piece has a purpose, and there's so much tiny little details here. You can reenact the whole scene. You get a bunch of the dwarves. You get a really cool big fig Goblin King that just captures that character so well. You get the classic Gandalf with cape again, but you did get Dwari, you did get Nori, you did get Ori, and then you got a couple other goblins too. But I think the most important part about this is when you were building the set, you actually felt like you were putting together this scrappy little goblin tunnel. It captures it so well. It had a really cool destructible bridge play feature. And overall, it was memorable. I actually went in building it thinking that it wasn't going to be that good. I was kind of like, it'll be an okay build, but I actually ended the build, kind of, wow, I really enjoyed that. I was really surprised by it, and so for that reason, I'm going to give it an A. It was a memorable and enjoyable set to build. All right, up next, we have the Dol Guldur ambush. And I think this is going to be our next D. Actually, it's too bad because I really liked Beorn as a character, but I do agree there was a miss here. I read a lot of kind of controversy with the character, the minifigure. The headpiece itself is actually attached to the beard, and it's all one molded piece, and it's not even a traditional Lego head. If you look into it, it's just kind of got 4 pegs holding it in there, and it's all one piece. And they did that to add a little height to it, but the minifigure doesn't actually tower over other minifigures like he does in the movie. In the movie, he's 3 or 4 or 5 times the size of these hobbits and dwarves, but this minifigure's a plate taller. I think it was a huge miss to not include, the bear piece. Maybe get a battle-scarred bear would have been really cool that he could have transformed into mold before, so that'd be asking a lot. But, I do agree with the controversy here. I know a lot of people, myself included, were disappointed. I'm not so much disappointed with the minifigure, though. I would have been able to get over it if they had that bear piece in here, because then at least that's towering over everybody. That would have been cool. They could have put the budget into a battle-torn Beorn bear, but they didn't. Instead, we just got, a little half piece of wall, which this character wasn't even at Dol Guldur, so that didn't make any sense. They just kind of threw him in. I personally would have liked a little cottage house build instead. That would have been cool. You could have put him in the Attack of the Warwick set because it's the scene right after that, but instead he got kind of just dropped into this Dol Guldur ambush set. Didn't really make any sense. Maybe they could have included him a 5 army, so this was just kind of an afterthought in my mind, and it really shows in this set. Alright, so next up we have the Mirkwood Elf Army, and I'm trying to think, is this going to be our next A? I think it is. It's definitely above average in my opinion. This set was awesome, and I'll tell you why. This set had 279 pieces, and it retailed for $30. It included 6 minifigures as well as a warg, which is just we don't ever see 6 minifigures. We do, but it doesn't happen often. You don't often see a ton of minifigures like that, especially in a $30 set. And I think what made this really cool is it was the army builder of this series. You could pick this up, you could pick it up cheap, and you'd get 4 or 5 different elf type of characters with the Gundabog orcs. You also got a really cool Thranduil with a really awesome hair and crown piece combo. He had a lot of detailing on his actual torso print and leg printing of his armor. He just was a really cool looking figure. I love that crown hairpiece combo. I have to say it again, it was so awesome, and it was just a great deal for a set. You also, this was that other way to get another warg. You got the brown warg here, and a pretty cool little build. I mean, the build's not much. It was actually smaller than I felt like it would have been, but what was cool is you could put multiple of them together and just make a nice little Mirkwood wall. And for me, that's just an outstanding set because you had a reason to buy multiple of them, and you wanted to go out and buy multiple of them because it just inspired you to do so. Alright, so next up we have the Lake Town Chase, and I'm looking at the other sets that we've got coming up, and I'm trying to think, is this better than them? And I just can't agree. For me, it's a B. It's a solid set. Don't get me wrong. It's a good, nice little Lake Town build. We got a really cool Master of Lake Town minifigure. We got Bard, we got Thorn, we got another Bilbo, same Bilbos we've been getting, but we got another Lake Town guard as well. You got a really cool boat build with this where they actually took two of those rowboat pieces, stuck them back to back, and you built around it, which was cool. Made it look like this nice long boat with some cool shields that kind of hid that detailing. Overall, it was a nice little minifigure pack. I do think the biggest miss here was the Gundabarg or orcs. There should have been some orcs involved in this set, in my opinion. We didn't get any. This was a set that came out for the Desolation of Smog, unlike the other one that did include orcs that came out for the Battle of Five Armies. And actually, in that scene in the Battle of Five Armies that has Lake Town, there were no orcs. So for me, it was a miss that some orcs weren't included. I think that might have put this one over the top and made it an A, because just all around it would have been much more solid than the average set. I feel like this is kind of that average of what we get, where it leaves just a little bit to be desired, but you're not disappointed in your purchase, and that's exactly how I feel about this set. Alright, so next up we have the Dol Guldur battle, and this set actually came with 8 minifigures. It was a great deal. You got more Gundabog orcs, you got another Gandalf, this time without the hat, so he's technically a unique minifigure. He did come in another set, though, I believe, in the Lord of the Rings series, so, it wasn't anything special. We did get an Azog. It was the same Azog that came out in the Comic-Con minifigure pack, so kind of cool to get the Comic-Con minifigure, but that meant the Comic-Con minifigure wasn't that special. Overall, though, I think the shining star of this set has got to be Radagast. He had a really awesome hat and beard piece combo with a tan plume in it. Those tan plumes are quite rare. If you've watched my Pirates of the Caribbean tier list, I talked about it there with Angelica. If you don't know, that tan plume is actually worth about $30 to $90 new on Bricklink right now. I just checked those prices. That's insane for a plume, just because it's in tan. So he was actually the other figure that it came out in. So that's what's made this set's value go up over time. But in my opinion, it actually just captures the scene quite well. I don't know if it's well enough, though, to be an A. It's a really good set. It's a really solid set, but I don't think there's anything special. Sure, it's kind of cool that there's that one rare piece that came in it, but does the plume really add that much to the set? It does now, obviously, right? Because it's so rare. It's worth almost, actually it's worth more than the set was when it originally came out, that one plume piece. But that's right now. The set itself, when you got it, you thought it was cool, it represents it well, but just nothing crazy special about it. Alright, so this next set might actually be my most controversial take on this tier list. I believe it was received all right. Maybe not as well as I received it. I think a lot of people just thought it was average. It was okay. I'm going to have to give this set, I think, an A. You got 3 minifigures. You got an awesome, really cool Elrond with a lot of unique and just awesome printing. You got a really cool Galadriel with this kind of sparkly, reflective cape. And then you got the Witch King. I mean, I wasn't expecting the Witch King in this set. I wasn't sure what we'd expect. Maybe an Azog here, so I thought it was just really cool that they were able to get us a Witch King set. The build, nothing special. It does make just a nice little kind of backdrop to display these figures with. You can display it right behind him. It just kind of adds to the overall display. But there's nothing that build brings to the table. In fact, the build might be a little bit below average, but I think these 3 minifigures are 3 quality minifigures, and I'm surprised they didn't try to split them up in more of the sets because, in my opinion, they're Chase minifigures. You wanted them, and Lego did us a favor by including them all in this one set. And for me, I got to give it above average just because that very reason. You got these 3 really awesome figures, and you don't see that very often. Alright, so last up with our Lake Town sets, there were 2. Again, this was the Battle of 5 Army version. This was the Attack on Lake Town. We got a Bane. This was the Dirty Lake Town Bard. Bard did come out another set, so did Bane. But we also got 2 orcs, Hunter orcs, and then we got another version of Tariel. I kind of alluded to it though before. I think that this set's a miss, and I'm gonna have to give it below average simply because this is the Battle of the 5 Armies version. It did come out with the giant crossbow for Bard to take down Smaug, which was good, but what this scene was representing was the last battle in the Desolation of Smaug, and this was the following movie that this set was representing. So for me, that was a miss. It kind of came with this dopey little boat build. I know that's where the arrow was hidden in the movie, but overall, this set didn't really add anything the other Lake Town set did, other than that tiny little scorpion build in the tower. But you didn't even get Smaug here. I understand why you didn't get Smaug, but there could have been something a little bit more to the set. It was just missing something overall. For me, if the best part about it is a spring-loaded shooter, it's a below average set, and that's exactly the case here. Alright, so another below average set, I think, in my opinion. This is the Battle of 5 Armies, and honestly, I think the only saving grace of the set is the Dane Ironfoot that came with it, as well as the Thorin in his king armor. I think this set actually had potential to be an A. I think what would have been really cool would have been a Lonely Mountain, or even the entrance to the Lonely Mountain. That could have been a S. Some of that rock work could have been captured really well, but it wasn't. We got the kind of crappy bell tower of Dale with the half of a build. Yeah, you could recreate the scene, but overall, there just wasn't anything special here other than the Dane and the Thorin figure. I believe the Dane figure is now worth more than the set retailed for, so it's just kind of one of those sets where if you want that Dane figure, probably go find the set because you get the bonus pieces and the bonus other minifigures for maybe a couple more bucks, because Dane is that sought after and the set is not. The only reason this set has actually gone up in value is because of that Dane minifigure. So because of that, I gotta give it below average. Nothing really holds its value here with this set. And last but not least, we have the Lonely Mountain set. This was definitely that set from the Battle of 5 Armies that you had to have. This was a great set in my opinion. It was not as good as the Hobbit Hole set, however, it was definitely second best in the entire series. I really liked the set. It did come with a unique Bilbo and a dark blue coat. It came with a brand new Balin, a brand new Dwalin, a brand new Philly, and a brand new Killy minifigure. We got those characters prior, but this got us versions with their battle-ready Battle of 5 Armies armor, so that was cool. We got really nice alternative versions of them. It also came with, of course, Smaug, an awesome piece for Smaug, a nice dragon build, tons of articulation, not really brick built. You added a few pieces to it, but a lot of big molded pieces. You got these really awesome wings that could span great distance and also be tucked in. It was just a fun build too to put together the Lonely Mountain. I feel like this is a really nice display piece too, surprisingly. It just makes a really nice background. The way I have it displayed is I've got my Smaug right in front of it, and you really feel like Smaug is within the Lonely Mountain atop the throne. You got a couple of other side builds here to kind of give it a little bit of depth and just a little bit extra, which is cool. It wasn't super necessary, but it definitely adds a little bit of flavor to the set. But overall, this was that other set that you had to have. You had to have that Smaug set, and my gosh, it was worth it. Exceeded my expectations, and definitely one of the legendary, one of the epic sets of the Hobbit theme overall. So that concludes our tier list. Let me know what your thoughts are. What's your tier list? Are you thinking, Grinch, you're crazy, this is all wrong? Maybe you liked the Dol Guldur ambush set. Did you like the Bjorn minifigure? Personally, it didn't bother me that much. I just wish there was something more. Let me know, though. Let me know in the comments. What are your thoughts? What are your opinions? What's your favorite set here? And of course, like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks.